two vacant lots that would help to maintain the existing agricultural uses on those lots and support it by having a single family dwelling on each lot, a farmette, if you will. From an environmental standpoint, as I've described already, none of this application involves specifics about any new construction. The applicant doesn't intend to build the two single family dwellings. There's no new improvements proposed as part of the application. But what we envision is two single family dwellings similar to the residential dwellings in the surrounding area. And certainly as part of the building permit application process for any future construction on the two vacant lots, they would have to meet any and all regulatory agency requirements, including the building department, engineering department, and any DEP applications, for example, to confirm if there's any wetland disturbances, as well as if the proposed construction in the future rises to the level where it would require a soil erosion and sediment control approval, or even a DNR and Canal Commission approval. But right now we have no specific plans regarding those two future dwellings. We are cognizant of beyond, and I'll go to the minor subdivision plan next. Actually, an aerial might be a picture. Let me give you my third sheet. Here's an aerial. This is probably what you really wanted from the first slide. The picture is worth 1,000 words. This is, again, the two vacant lots, and you can see primarily today they're used as agricultural fields, but for the wooded areas, and then the 4.2 acre parcel, which is now occupied by the two family dwelling that faces Millstone River Road. And what we envision is those agricultural areas would continue to be utilized for any agricultural use that would be supported by the two single family dwellings and a farmette use on those properties. Probably talked too much already, right? Any suggestions or thoughts?
Unmute yourself, Deb.
Oh, you're still muted. There you go.
There
Okay.
we go.
Okay. I guess I'm a little confused because I don't know that I've ever seen an application like this before. I may have, it doesn't ring a bell. So will we see a separate application at the time that these houses will be built to look at, you know, wetlands and LOI and DNR Canal Commission? Are we, so that's my question.
Yeah, no, you would likely not, because the 19 acre parcel and the 11.6 acre parcel would be considered like any other vacant lot in the township where you could build a single family house. And it would be a straightforward building permit application, but it would go through the same review on the engineering, the township engineering and zoning, just like any other single family house.
So we have no idea whether, at this point, whether, you know, you have no location on the house. We have no idea whether wetlands will be impacted. We have none of that.
Right.
So I'm not really
But-
sure what, as from the Environmental Commission standpoint, what we are looking at tonight from our standpoint.
That actually raised our curiosity too, in the sense that I'll say the simplicity of the application, in that, you know, perfecting a subdivision and a use variance, but no specifics on any construction at this time. I think out of the abundance of caution, the staff suggested that we go to the Environmental Commission. But that said, with regards to, say, DEP, any approval by or comments from the Environmental Commission, or even a use variance approval by the Board of Adjustment, doesn't alleviate us from still considering any and other all outside agency approval. It doesn't give, blanket check to disturb wetlands. The applicant, any future owner it would still be their responsibility to meet the state regulations regarding wetlands.
But
It's
can-
just
can
that in
I
this case,
jump
since we
in?
don't have any specifics at this time, we haven't, got something to show you.
Patrick, can you
Mr.
provide some
Fuller.
input in this, please?
Yeah, I mean, they're here because there is, it's a subdivision going on, but also use variance, which jumps things to this commission for their review and input at the same time.
Excuse me, Patrick?
In any case, if someone does come back to our, yes.
I don't know if
Here.
anybody else is having issues, but you're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah. Yes, it's hard to
Can
hear.
you, that's why I was muting you, because you have an echo and a reverb and you're breaking up even when you're speaking.
Okay, can you hear me now fine?
It's a little better, a little better. So go ahead and repeat what you were saying. We'll try to get it again. Oh, maybe he's
Okay.
dropping off. Oh, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm just checking with the input and the connection.
Okay,
Can you hear me now?
sounds a little better, yes.
Okay, so this is a technicality that gets sent to the EC because it involves a subdivision and use variance. This needs to be reviewed for any comment or consideration, but Mr. Ford is correct. If there were to be a development on this property, it would have to come to me first to make a determination of if they need further DEP approvals, which in this case, if there's wetlands on the property, you probably would need an LOI and DRCC in that situation to prove the extent of the wetlands and what's being done on the property. So there is still a layer of review and protection that's being provided on an administrative level. And of course, if someone wants to buy a property and use it for something else, of course, and has to go back for either a minor site plan or say a different type of variance at that point, it might get kicked back to the Environmental Commission anyway. So I hope that helps.
That does, thank you. Do any members of the Environmental Commission have any questions or comments?
Yeah, Mike Foley here. I have a couple questions. I think Patrick just touched on my first question, but I mean, as an environmental commission, we see everything almost practically. So I mean, we've seen, individual family homes that added tennis court and added, additions such as that. So maybe Mr. Ford wasn't aware, but from the EC side of things, I think we usually would look at, and correct me if I'm wrong, Debbie or anybody, but we do also look at single family house developments and or additions to single family house developments. So, that on top of what Patrick said, I think we will have an opportunity to review this development in the future when it comes to realization. And in that regard, maybe we can make, I don't know what kind of authority we have in this instance, and maybe we don't, but maybe Debbie, we can ask that these subdivisions, any development specifically on these subdivisions, come to the Environmental Commission for future consideration. Just a thought. I don't know if we have that authority.
I have no problem with that. That would give me a comfort factor
Yeah.
because I don't have a comfort factor right now.
No, neither do I. Another question I had is, are these farmlands, preserved farmlands?
No,
Okay. So they're not preserved, there's nothing under the state Department of Agricultural, any type of jurisdiction or designation?
right. No, they're not preserved, and frankly,
There's another,
the applicant has been marketing it under the current zoning, the 05, for
Okay.
office and research uses. and has had limited, interest in the property. And
All right.
this seemed like a good alternative that would help preserve the agricultural use.
Well, and that kind of leads into my next question is if it's not preserved farmland, any future development, whether it be a single family house or multi-residential development could wipe out that farmland, correct? Potentially. The stuff. So you say the farmland will be preserved, but you don't know if it's going to be preserved. You don't know if it's going to be a single family house. You don't know if it's going to be a multi-residential development, correct?
No, the application to the Board of Adjustment is for a single home on each lot. So the application, if approved by the Board of Adjustment, wouldn't allow more than one house on it.
Oh,
And really, right
So-
now, it's under the current zoning, agricultural uses are permitted. But if a person wanted to buy the property and use it for agricultural purposes, they would have to live somewhere else. And our thought
Okay.
process is to gain approval from the Board of Adjustment to put one house on each lot. And you're right, if we get Board of Adjustment approval, that doesn't guarantee that the buyer will develop it as a single family house. But certainly if the applicant, develops a site plan for some other use under the 05 and it requires a land use application, they'd be back into the township for a land use application and end up back at the board.
Yes, that's substantially correct.
So it will not, like future single family house, one on each lot, will not be, let's lack of a better term, deed restricted into the land.
Again,
Correct.
Right.
we're going to the Board of Adjustment, and I, as sure as I'm sitting here, I've appeared before the Board of Adjustment on numerous occasions. I am sure they will address the issue of areas, conservation easements, and things of that nature to make sure that the property is properly protected. Speaking to the ability to build a single family house, and I think Mike could jump in anytime he would like, the lots are so large that the construction of the home will certainly be within a footprint that will not involve any setback variances.
Right. And we don't anticipate any impacts to regulated areas either, like wetlands or wetland buffers. There's an
Okay.
abundance of land that's beyond it. We don't have a site-specific study. We have published data like, Michael, it's,
Right.
not absolute, but, and at, this juncture, the current proposal doesn't really warrant all that detailed study because a new buyer might decide to put the house, somewhere else in a lot that requires a study in another location.
These
Oh,
are-
no, I completely understand that. I mean, that
Yeah.
makes sense. I guess my concern is at the level of, I agree. If it's a single family house, there's lots of lands, you have a lot of buffer, you can conserve, environmentally sensitive resources. My concern is what happens and if a developer comes in and wants to put in 30 units. But I think what you're telling me is that will not be allowed under the rezoning or the Board of Adjustment subdivision that you are applying for?
That's correct. If we get approval from the Board of Adjustment, it is purely, specifically, and solely to build a single-family dwelling on each of the two lots. That's it.
Okay.
Any change.
Can
in
they, but they
valuation-
so if somebody purchases that property, can they come back and can they apply to put something else other than a single family? They would have to go back to the Board of Adjustments. Would they be allowed to do that?
Sure,
Put something else on?
you're always allowed to go in and redevelop property. But of course, you've got to go through the process. You've got to get whatever approvals are necessary.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey Debbie, it's Neil.
Yes.
Hey Mike, I have a question. Is the single family home right now, is there a well, or is it's not city water, city sewer right now, right?
Mr.
the
Julian,
exist-
Mr. Julian, it's a two-family home, just for the record.
Okay,
Right.
okay,
And private well and septic.
private well and stuff.
And we're not proposing to make any changes to that property. That's the 4.2 acre parcel over here.
Right. But down the road, if that area gets city sewer and city water, that potentially could be something that would be, I don't know, I guess, a positive for that, for those lots, for future development, if that's something that, happens down the road. But
Well,
right now, it's only well.
Right. I mean, really honestly, the application's not aggressive at all, really, in the sense that just to our north is the Claremont section, and there's public sewer in Hamilton and public water. This is consistent with I'll say the current, zoning, all but for the agricultural use doesn't also allow a single family house. And we're not in the public sewer service area. We're not seeking to be included. This is simply an on-site septic for a single family house on both lots.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Are there any other commission members that have any other questions before we wrap this up?
Chair Boyer, it's Patrick speaking.
Sure.
Mr. Ford, just to provide a little bit of clarity to the board and to follow up on Mr. Julian's question, if one of these properties that are being subdivided were to tie into public water or public sewer, they potentially would cross any wetlands, they would have to get the DEP approvals prior to the development, correct?
Correct.
Which requires a special permitting process.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess to wrap this up and to sum this up, the application that's before us, which is the use variance, commission doesn't really have any comments on as per se, but we are going to tell the Board of Adjustments that, that the resolution should include that if there's any future development, if the houses are put in, that we would want to see it back at the Environmental Commission to make sure that wetlands, that there's conservation easements, that any environmental concerns would be addressed at that point in time.
All right, Madam Commissioner,
Yes.
just for
Go ahead.
clarification,
Yes, go ahead.
I take it you mean if there's a change of use from a single family dwelling to another use?
Well, no, I think that I know that Mike Ford said that that if they were to put these houses up, that they would still have to get all the permits, the LOI and the DNR canal. That's what I want to make sure happens, that when these houses, if someone purchased this property and decides to put that single family house up, that they address all the environmental concerns of the property.
I don't know whether and Mike, you could jump in if you will. I don't know if someone owned an 11-acre lot zoned residential and went in for a single family house, whether they would have to go by those kinds of regulations.
Yeah, I think that's what Patrick Gorman was saying earlier, because a building permit comes into him. And as part of their review process, they would look at those issues.
Yes, he did say that. That is
Yeah.
correct. You are
Yeah,
correct. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So there is that extra layer of check that comes in there when these things do come in. If someone does come into a wetland area or is even close, it's prudent and it's actually needed that they do their LOI and due diligence and go through the proper channels of authority, that we get those approvals and the LOI prior to the issuance of a zoning permit.
So I guess our recommendation relative to this use variance is that we have no comments, but that should the, and I still go back to whether, when the property is developed, that they would have to make sure that they address all environmental regulations and get all permits as necessary, both
Yeah,
state and local.
I think
Does
you've got
that
it.
work?
I think you've got it, Commissioner.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do
Debbie, I
any-
think,
Mike, you okay with that?
Do any of the commission members have an issue
Yes.
with that?
Debbie, I think the bottom line point is that any future development on these lots, with whether it be a single family home or a multi-unit proposed development, I understand that's not what you're proposing, but just any future development on these lots, we respectfully request that that proposal at that time comes before this environmental commission for review. We understand that they also have to get DEP approvals, but we are a home rule state. We have every right to request to look at any future proposals in this town by our commission.
I would have to disagree with that, Mr. Foley. I don't think that the Environmental Commission, under those circumstances that you've just described, would have jurisdiction. And I think that the protections that were announced by Mr. Gorman, that is to say, let's assume we get the approval for a single family house on the 11 acres or whatever it is, that individual, before constructing a single family house, and again, that's the only approval in question, would have to go to Mr. Gorman's office. It goes through zoning, construction, and gets protected on that basis. I think that would be an unusual interference with the marketing of the property. If the purchaser of the property to build a single family home had to come back to the Environmental Commission. I don't think that's appropriate.
And I'm sorry, Frank, who are you with? I just see your picture with your name, Frank. Who are you with? I'm sorry.
My name is Francis P. Linus, and I'm the attorney for the applicant.
Okay, thank
My
you.
offices are in Somerset, New Jersey. And I
So-
Okay, thanks.
regularly appear as a land use attorney in many municipalities, including Hillsborough.
Correct. That's
I
correct.
also-
I have to-
Frank, we've seen you for
Planning
years.
boards.
Correct.
This is Chris Abrupta. I got to agree with Frank. I don't think the Environmental Commission has any business reviewing every single family single family home. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, it's a waste of our time. I mean, you could put a stipulation in here that if anything other than a single family home goes on this property, then we'd like to see it. But I don't think it's necessary to make a single family property owner come in front of the EC again. It doesn't.
So
everybody's
we
fine.
will write it up such that, that when the single family when the single family houses go to be built, that they meet the requirements of all building permits, and that any other use other than that would have to come back to the EC.
I think that's fair.
Mike
Okay.
Foley, how do you feel about that?
No, that makes sense. Thank
Okay.
you for clarifying.
Okay, I think that works then for everybody.
Thank you.
Does anybody on the board anybody on the commission have any other concerns about that? No? Okay. Very good. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you
Good seeing you guys.
very much.
Mike,
Stop the share, right? Leave the meeting. Have a good night, everyone.
Night,
Good
Mike.
night.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
night,
you, Michael.
Carol.
Hey, Mike.
Night.
Okay. Let me go back to the agenda.
Chairman, this is Fred Kinsler, Hillsborough Township. I just wanted to know, does this need to go to the public for any discussion at that point?
You can open it up to the public. That's fine.
I didn't know if that's necessary or not. I just didn't
You know,
want to.
usually the public is sitting right there and
Yeah.
they have questions, so we can open it up since
Yeah.
we're doing it that way. That's fine.
Thanks,
Thank
Frank,
you.
for sticking on. And we do have one person that's raised their hand. So Tom O'Donnell, please state your name and address for the record. And you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question, Tom. Again, please state your name and address for the record. Tom, you're still muted. You have a question for this applicant? If not, we're gonna lower your hand and move on. Okay, he's not responding, so, oh, there's one more, hold on.
Sorry,
Let's
I'm
see.
unmuted.
Oh, okay, Tom, you want to state your name and address?
Sure. Tom O'Donnell, 33 Ann Street, president of Claremont Community Nonprofit for the Claremont section of Hillsborough. 33 Ann Street. A couple of comments on this. One, it was commented by Mr. Ford, I believe his name was, that Claremont has sewers. Yes, we do. B, we do not have public water. So there is no public water on the other side of Hamilton Road. Okay. Me personally, I've heard Debbie, I've heard you comment about LOI review and the DNR review of plans from the environmental side. Also, you know, we've got in that area, you've got the aquifer. So the folks down in Millstone, the watershed, they're very interested in this area, as well as the Sierra Club. We brought the Roycebrook project to their attention many years ago with the Erickson project. I'm dismayed by the township because it sounds like this project for two houses was put in front of your environmental committee to review by the Board of Adjustments. But based on what I understand, the environmental committee has not looked at the paperwork for the proposed project on the Roycebrook Golf Course. And I think also you guys are maybe not even aware that there is an LOI currently on that property next door across the street.
Tom, which property has the LOI?
Roycebrook.
But as I said in my email to Doug the other day, we don't have an application for that as of yet. So I don't have anything relative
I
to
know you
that,
don't.
to that
They have a
property.
concept. I understand you don't have.
Right.
You don't have a. You only have a concept drawing. You don't have a.
I don't have anything. We were not presented with anything on the Roycebrook property.
So it's not a
But
reflection on your group. My frustration is with the township. They're showing very inconsistent behavior. You've got the Board of Adjustments putting this project in front of you for two houses. And they're not putting the Roycebrook project in front of you, which has a concept plan and has a current LOI with the DEP.
Patrick, can you respond to that?
Hi, Mr. O'Donnell. It's Pat Gorman from Hillsborough Township Planning and Zoning. Do you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you, Patrick.
Okay, just making sure. So the application before the board tonight was more of a technicality, so that they have to put this before their review to see this. As you're concerned of the Roycebrook development, we do not have a current application in front of us at the moment. So therefore, we cannot see the full scope of the project if need be. A concept is just a concept. That has no bearing at this point, or no bearing at this point with this application.
How about the LOI, Patrick?
I don't have the LI, sir.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. My neighbors were not notified properly on that LOI. We found it through through word of mouth.
I can't confirm or deny that request, but if there is an issue with a notification, you can certainly contact our office tomorrow, and we'll be happy to assist you.
Tom, do you have
Actually,
it?
it's been corrected. We do have the notification. It arrived in the mail over the weekend.
Tom, do you have any specific questions to this application itself that we talked about, that we just talked about?
No, I mean, for this
That's
project,
really-
no,
I mean-
I
ahead.
just see how this project's being put in front of your group without anything on paper, and a property across the street isn't being put in front of your group. And even though it doesn't have a engineering plan, it does have a concept plan. So I'm just, again, calling out that there's not consistency.
Okay, that's duly noted. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, Okay, Chairman, I see one, this is Fred Kinsler. I see one other hand raised. Please state your name and address for the record. Please unmute yourself, Ms. Gulliford. Susan, are you there? We cannot hear you. Susan, we cannot hear you, Ms. Gulliford. Now you're muted again. You want to try one more time, Ms. Gulliford, to unmute yourself? State your name and address. Okay. All right, I see no other hands raised. Chairman, you may proceed.
Thank you. Okay, the next application is Esco Precision on Camplain Road.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Commissioner. Once again, Francis P. Linus. For those of you who don't know me, my offices are located in Somerset, New Jersey, and I'm pleased to represent the El Coley family tonight. Again, I want to compliment the commission for conducting this virtual meeting. As you can see, there's a lot of glitches that are imposed by, and a lot of work and a lot of activity and a lot of patience on the part of the commissioners, as well as the applicants and the public. So I do want to thank the commissioners for the opportunity to move forward with applications so that we provide some economic development in these trying times. On this particular application, the El Coley family purchased the property in 1989, and they've continued to use the existing single-story facility as a machine shop and warehouse use and some office use. The family businesses, and they are family businesses located at this location, have manufactured, tuned, and milled components for various industries, including the Department of Defense. In addition to manufacturing, the applicant owner has distributed and maintained an inventory of parts for their customers. This activity has remained unchanged for the past 30 years. The applicant, the owner, is continuing its current engineering and manufacturing of their own products, but they need some additional space, additional warehouse space. So therefore, we filed an application. We are zoned. We filed an application before the planning board for a site plan approval for the addition. I have with me tonight two potential witnesses. Mr. Adam Candil will be, he's our site engineer. He'll be making the major presentation. And then I have Emir El Coley also here in case anybody has any questions regarding the use or operation of the current facility or what's being proposed. So without further ado, let me introduce Adam Candil. Adam?
Hey, how are you? Adam Candil, civil engineer, been doing land development and civil engineering for the last 16 years or so. I work for Datel Engineering and representing this application as the site engineer, professional engineer. I'm getting ready to share, I guess, over here. So who could share? Do I change this? Do I put only host or all?
Yeah, you could say share, just share your screen. You could say share screen. Down at the bottom, you should have a shared screen, Adam.
Okay. Yeah, I did that, and then it said advanced sharing options.
Okay. Does it have screen share? Only you?
Yeah, now I'm good.
Okay. There you go.
You guys see that okay?
Mhm.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna maintain from Adobe PDF so I can make markups on it as we go. But as you can see from the aerial over here on the left, the project, so again, with the top of the page being north, the property is situated on old Camplain Road, right south of the railroad tracks. To the left of the property, there is a junkyard, and to the right of the property, there's a towing compound. And then also on the right is the tax map. I'm going to continue on to existing, well, this is a presentation outline. So I'm going to go through the existing conditions. Just to give you a broad background, same owner's been there, 1989, same project for the most part. And what we're doing at this point, we're taking, well, actually, I'll go through the outline and I'll go through the existing conditions. So we'll have something up as I'm talking. And then I'll go through the site plan, grading, drainage, notes, and then outside agency approvals. Here's the existing conditions. I'm going to try to zoom it in a little bit. I know you guys all have full copies, but just want to zoom in. And if you could see my cursor here, I'm going around. This is the existing pavement area all throughout here. And then it intersects with the building. And I'm continuing around the building and then going down. There's a concrete pad. And then there's also parking area here, which I'm continuing down. So if you see the edge of pavement, and then it goes into the neighboring property. So there's almost like a sea of asphalt between both properties. It's not defined. The road opening isn't defined, but what the applicant's looking to do here is essentially trying to put an expansion. So they're trying to expand the building about 3,500 square feet to the right. And the additional 3,500 is going to be in the disturbed area of the current pavement parking area that's there. So they're increasing the building into the current parking area, as you can see, going back to the existing conditions. So we're essentially, adding, and as Frank said, same use, they continue the same use, they just need more warehouse space. So they're just trying to add additional warehouse space. And that's where they're getting the 3,500 square feet additional space. And they're trying to maintain it within the footprint of the existing development. So we're not expanding the development. If anything, if you look about on the second drive aisle, we're actually defining the area that sea of asphalt I was talking about. We're almost defining it more so that we can put down a more defined, cleaner area with fresh pavement and adequate curbing, parking, and landscaping. So I'll just run through it, but and if there's any questions, feel free to stop me as I'm going. As you can see, you have the railroad tracks in the back, and pretty straightforward area where they have the parking. They're now putting the pavement and they're condensing the parking. It was just, the parking lot was not striped per se. It was asphalt that's been breaking up over the last 20 years or so. And they keep replenishing it with gravel, asphalt. And now they're looking to pave it and have it be a much cleaner development, reline the handicap, put in some parking, and some landscaping. I'll go to the next page. So some landscaping. So from a stormwater perspective, the property right now has roof drains that sheet flow right off the side of the building and they flow right into the road. So that's another enhancement or improvement that we're looking to do, is to collect the roof drains and bring them underground and have it go in to one tie-in point as opposed to sheet flowing across the front of the yard and right into the road. So that's another enhancement that we've done. But essentially, we're maintaining the same drainage patterns. We're not expanding the footprint of the development, and we're just collecting the stormwater and defining it to the stormwater system. You can see here, this is the chart, and I'm just going to wave over here. So you have the existing footprint over here where the existing pavement and footprint, and the existing impervious is 60. They're right out the max number for the zone. And we're bringing it down slightly, 59.2. And again, as I was saying, we're just using the same footprint of the development, and we're increasing the building size and making the parking area smaller. With regards to utilities, it's all public: water, sewer, gas, and electric, and those will all be maintained. We're not increasing the intensity of any of those. With regards to parking, here's the parking chart again on the, just blew it up here, but it's a larger area of the parking requirements. The only 3 items that we're requesting waivers on would be a maximum of 1 access drive, which is currently 2 access drives, and we're maintaining those 2. A buffer of 30 foot from the property line. So the building is maintained within the 30 feet, but the parking comes a little closer, if you see where my cursor is here, but this is, right within that existing footprint, but the parking is within that buffer to the property line. And the last one is maintaining landscaping. The last one is landscaping between the building and parking. We're not maintaining any area because they're parking right up against the building and they have concrete curb stops to stop the cars in this strip over here. I'm just going to continue going through. So this is the proposed drainage area map. It encompasses the whole site. You have the total area, 0.81 acres, 0.485 impervious, and 0.334 is pervious. And then going back to existing conditions, the impervious 0.492 and the pervious is 0.327. So you can see there's a slight decrease over there. When it comes to stormwater regulations, we're maintaining the same flows on the 2, the 10, and 100. And, in general, with regards to stormwater management regulations as per DP, this is not a major development. Doesn't require stormwater quantity, quality, or recharge because we're reducing the impervious, we're not increasing, and we're also not a major development in the amount of disturbance. As you can see here, we did get a jurisdictional determination from DRCC. Property is exempt based off the improvements. Soil erosion has come back and has approved the project. Somerset County has also approved the project. Lastly, and is the case with all of our other applications, DP is a little behind. We anticipate this to be a formality that we will get. We've applied for a LOI presence absence. We anticipate an absence based off of the vegetation, no hydraulic soils nor vegetation, but we're just waiting on the LOI from DEP, which will be a condition of approval through planning board as well. This project is going to the planning board. No, this project's going to the zoning board, right, Frank?
Planning board.
Oh, planning board.
Planning board, it's a
Oh.
permitted use. We're in an industrial zone.
Yeah. Okay. And this is just figure I'd show. I know you guys all have this, but this is the architectural. So this is the elevation plan that they're looking to execute, maintaining essentially the same. They're maintaining essentially the same floor plan on the existing building, and they're putting a mezzanine and the extension, which is the 3,500 for this section. That's the glass, essentially after the number 71. I did leave the plans here. I don't have to go through the rest of them, but I did leave them. I wasn't sure if the presentation would allow me to add the plans, but this is the full site plans that were previously submitted. So if there are any questions, I can refer to any of those.
Thank you, Adam. You were going through the numbers on the impervious, the existing as opposed to the proposed.
Mhm.
So we're at 60 now. And what is it, why, how are you reducing it?
Oh, great question. So here is an exhibit, just to, again, picture is worth 1,000 words. I tried putting the gray as the existing and the black as the proposed. So this gives almost a snapshot of the areas we're reducing and increasing.
Okay. Okay.
So you can see the sidewalk in the front, we're removing that in the rear. So the sidewalk over here, we're reducing that. The rear over here, we're defining those parking spots. And then on the left, the sea of asphalt here, we're also reducing that and defining that more.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
This building is heated how? Is it a
Yeah, this
natural
is-
gas or is it oil heat or what? Electric?
I think it's natural gas, but I'll let Amir speak to that.
Yeah, it's natural gas, correct?
Thank you.
Yep.
Do you have a, emergency generator on site?
No, we do not.
And you don't have well and septic, right? Has a phase one ever been done on this property?
No. So my father purchased the property back in 1989 with a clean bill of health, and since then there's been no activity on it at all. So we've not done any of that stuff.
Have you had any, so is it true, is it correct to say that there's been no environmental issues related to the site? You've had no spills or any cleanup or anything of that nature?
That's correct. Yep.
What kind of hours per day do you operate in what's your schedule?
So
Relative to lighting?
yeah, usually it's like 9 to 5, 5 days a week. But since Corona's hit, we've scaled back to 4 days a week.
Okay.
And yeah, pretty much.
And what exactly do you make there?
So essentially, it started off as manufacturing. We turn parts for the aerospace industry, electrical industry. We mill parts. Myself and my brother, we are both engineers. So we kind of transformed the business to be more of, how could I say, it's more robotics now. I'm sorry. Turn my video on. Do you guys hear me? Hello? Why is the video not turning? Oh, sorry. There it is. So myself and my brother, we're the ones that kind of took over the business, and we're both electrical engineers, and we're involved more in the automation industry for robotics. So we build custom machines and robotics for various industries, including the post office. So the machinery that sorts your mail, we do a lot of custom stuff with regard to that. So a lot of like more higher end engineering stuff. That's where we're getting into now. And that's kind of more of the motivation for the facelift on the building too. So we don't deal with any hazardous materials or anything like that. It's more of get on a computer, design stuff in CAD, send stuff out to suppliers, light assembly in-house. That's where we're going right now. And then warehousing. So any of the products, the automation products that we make, we're looking to stock in-house. That's kind of the reason for the added warehouse as well. So.
What type of machinery do you have there for manufacturing? Do you do the milling, do you CNC?
Yep, all CNC. So we have some manual machines too, but lathes, milling machines, and just for prototyping, we're going to keep that stuff, a couple of each, just for stuff that we need to make same day.
Okay. Do you have any material in 55-gallon drums or hazardous oil, or oil, that kind of a thing, for your machine, for your milling, for your lathes, or your cutting?
Yeah, we used to actually cutting oil for the mills and lathes. Yep. But all that stuff, like I said, in the past, we've just been getting rid of it because we're getting out of machining in general. So.
Okay. Does anybody on the commission have questions? Chris, do you have go ahead, Patrick.
I'm sorry, Debbie, I just have two questions from the presentation. Adam, this is Pat Gorman from Hillsborough Planning and Zoning. If I'm a little confused because when you went back and forth between showing what was the existing to what was proposed impervious, you weren't counting any of the pavement in the right of way, were you?
You're actually on the proposed. I do have a little extra proposed in the right of way.
Okay, but nothing that would trigger any type of variance, correct?
No.
Okay. And second question I have is, what's being done with the stormwater management on the property? Can you go a little bit more into that? Because there is an expansion of the building and redefinition of the parking, loading, and I'm sorry, parking and loading areas.
Yeah, so, so we did an extensive stormwater report. I don't want to bore you guys too much with it, but I do have it, if there's questions, but we, with regards to the stormwater standpoint, we've, the evaluation of the existing ground cover and the proposed ground cover is essentially a wash, when it comes to the stormwater aspect. But we've collected the water in a system of the, the roof drains, as you can see. It's hard to see, but from the corner of this building of the new expansion all the way back, we have this roof drain here that's picking up the water and tying to the existing inlet. So the water essentially now goes to that inlet, but it sheet flows, goes on the pavement, and then comes around onto Old Champlain Road, and then finds its way in the inlet. So now we're just picking it up quicker to get it there and tying it directly to the inlet, the inlet in Old Champlain Road. So we capture all that water from the addition as well as the water from the roof, and we're tying it into the municipal system. Other than that, we're maintaining the existing pattern. So grading is relatively the same. You can see that, the grading maintains the same. It mimics the same drainage patterns as it does under existing conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Abrupt, did you have any questions on the stormwater?
Yeah, I just, one question, the parking lot on the right, where does that drain? Does that drain out to Old Champlain, or does it drain to the back of the property?
Drains out to Old Champlain.
Okay. No, actually, it's just good because the roof runoff is relatively clean. So you're taking clean water and you're piping it out to the road, into the catch basin, which is good, as opposed to letting it run across the dirty parking lot and carry all that stuff to the road. So it's a good design. And they don't really have to do anything about stormwater management because they don't satisfy that criteria. So this is good though. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Chris.
Great, thank you, Chris. Does anybody else on the commission have any questions?
Hey, Deb, it's Neil.
Go ahead.
I would just ask, is there any environmental issues from any of the neighbors that, in the past have caused you any concern, whether it's the junkyard or what was the other property next to it as well? The
Towing company.
towing services, or, has there ever been any issues from either of them that have cause for concern on any type of issues?
No, we haven't had any cause for concern from them. To my knowledge, because I do know the owners of the junkyard a little bit. I think they do regularly test their land as per some requirement, I guess with the EPA or whatever. So they're highly regulated, I think. So no, we've never had anything from their property happen to overflow into ours or anything like that. It's been non-eventful since we go on the property.
This is a very highly industrial area over there.
Yeah.
So. Mike Foley, do you have any questions?
Not for this one.
Okay. And when are you going to the planning board? Do we know?
I think we're scheduled for September, right, Pat? One of the meetings in September?
Yeah,
Pat
this
Gorman, are you still there?
is Neil. I saw it on the schedule for September.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm muting myself. Yes, it's for
Oh,
September.
this is the 10th. It says September 10th. Okay. Okay. I guess there's really we have no questions then. No comments on the application.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Is Is there any public input?
Do we want to open it up to the public to see if there's any comments? or
Yeah, this is
Questions?
Fred Kinsler. I will open it up to the public if that's what you request.
Sure, go ahead, Fred.
So again, if there's anybody from the public who would like to ask a question on this application, please raise your hand. You'll be asked to unmute it and then please state your name and address for the record. I see none, Chairman, so you may proceed.
Thank you. Is there any consideration of old business from the commission? None? Is there any consideration for new business? None? We'll open it up again to open it up from business from the public. If there's any.
Okay, if there's anybody from the public that has any business that they would like to discuss, please raise your hand. Again, Chairman, I see none, so you may proceed.
Very good. Okay. I think at this point we are, we're going to be adjourning. I need a motion to adjourn. It is 8:13.
Motion to adjourn.
That's Thomas Almendinger. And I need a second, please.
I'll second. Neil.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for
Good night.
participating.
Have a good night. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Stay safe.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one. Bye-bye.